We are now talking to Off the Ball Network NBA analyst and reporter Chris Bolton. Chris, what's going on, man?
Man, what's going on, fellas? How we doing? How the loudmouths doing?
Oh, we're loud. I mean, obviously. But it's crazy. I mean, we were getting into baseball. We were talking about the Mets and the Yankees and this Juan Soto sweepstakes. Honestly, I could care less where he goes. And it's probably not on any of these New York teams. It's a story, and everybody thinks because both teams have the money that they'll go out there and go fetch for this kid. I think it's a dumb move.
I'm a Mets fan, but I'm not a delusional Mets fan. So I'm not anticipating or expecting Juan Soto on the Mets at all. But I'll gladly welcome him on the lineup.
I'm sure you would. I think anybody would open up their clubhouse to Juan Soto because he's.
Oh yes, open arms and everything. I'll be there to greet him.
Oh, absolutely. But I can't see the Nationals. I don't care if the owners are selling the team or whatever the heck they're doing. They're not going to trade him. Whoever takes over that team is not going to want to see Juan Soto play in the same division and have to see him 16, 17 games. Every single year. I don't care what the prospects the Mets are going to give up. None of those guys could be Juan Soto. So
it's like that constant reminder of your ex-girlfriend. You know, do you want to continue to see your ex day in and day out, day in and day out? So,
I agree with you. So why don't we get into the NBA? And obviously, so much stuff is going on this offseason. There are so many names that have popped up that want to be traded. The NBA obviously has become a prima donna league, where NBA players not happy where they are, trade me or I don't want to play there, and you're wasting your time because I will sit out for the season if it comes down to it. The big name here in New York is Donovan Mitchell. I mean, a lot of people believe he's been pushing himself out of Utah. He's the number one team from the beginning. James Dolan or no James Dolan, it has been the New York Knicks. We were talking to Mo Dakhil. If Donovan Mitchell gets traded to the Knicks, now he doesn't think that's going to make a difference. I believe Donovan Mitchell becoming a New York Knick with the players that they have, if they don't have to trade, obviously, Julius Randle, and all they got to trade is prospects and maybe two young players. I mean, this is a pretty good roster, set up. Where do you see the Knicks if Donovan Mitchell gets traded to the Knicks?
They'll definitely be a playoff team. I can see them being maybe a 5 to 7 seed.
Really?
It really kind of depends too on just the rest of the NBA landscape. Like if the Nets keep Kevin Durant and don't trade him, so I feel like the Nets would be really good. Of course, the Bucks, the Celtics, you have teams like that, and I think that next tier of teams, then you'll see the Knicks creep in and be in that conversation.
You know, I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because the Knicks 2 years ago, with just Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett and the pieces that they had, they were a 4th seed, almost a 3rd seed. Now you add Jalen Brunson and Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a top 10 player in the league, and nobody can argue that. And Jalen Brunson, who is not
Donovan Mitchell top 10?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, that's spicy.
You don't think so, huh?
I'm not gonna put him top 10.
Really?
He's a top 25, top 20
Really?
player.
You don't think he's a top 10 player? That's interesting.
Top 10 player, me personally.
That's interesting. But I think he is. A guy that averages almost 26 points a game, gives you about six assists a game, gives you about 7 rebounds a game. I think he is. He's been an all-star practically his whole career. So you put Donovan Mitchell over there in the Knicks. He's in the prime of his career. He's 25 years old. These guys they're still very young. I mean, the Knicks were a 4th seed, and you put him and Jalen Brunson on this team. They're much better than that Knicks team. So I disagree. I think if the Knicks get Donovan Mitchell, I think the Knicks are a 4th seed, maybe even a 3rd seed. I don't really think the Eastern Conference is that. The 76ers don't scare me with James Harden. The guy doesn't show up in the playoffs. I don't know what the Nets are going to be. Let's be honest. I mean, KD, one of these guys are going to be gone. And what are they going to depend on? Ben Simmons? I'm not going to bet on that with and they have no young talent over there in Brooklyn.
They don't, but that's why I feel like there's no chance that they trade these guys. There's no chance I really feel like that the Nets trade Durant and Irving. You have to run it back. And you can't feed into the players. Durant signed a 4-year deal. Mm-hmm. He has 3 years left. Mm-hmm. And now you all of a sudden want to go. You can't just say, all right, we're going to ship you off. Like, you committed to this team. So make him stay and play through his commitment. So, yeah, I mean, the Knicks, they'll be a good team, but I mean, it's going to be what, year
I'm not
3
speaking
for
as a Knick
Tibbs?
fan, and I am a Knick fan, but I'm not speaking as a Knick fan. I'm just looking at the talent, and if they're
Mhm.
and what we're hearing, it's Obi Toppin quickly and 5 first-round draft picks. If they do that, they keep Quentin Grimes, they keep McBride, they keep their young players. They still have Robinson, who they just signed. They have Julius Randle. They trade Fournier because they have to match up the contracts.
Contracts, right.
I mean, and their bench is pretty good and pretty young still. And these guys could develop. I think this team is a lot better than people are making them out to be. A 6 or 7 seed, I think they're much better than that. I think they're much better. The Eastern Conference stinks. I can't sit here and think that Philadelphia is going to be as good as they think. Toronto, come on. What scares you on Toronto? Barnes? I mean,
not yet.
I mean,
Toronto's up and coming.
Yeah, I mean, but I could say that about the Knicks too. I mean, you can't. How about the Atlanta Hawks? Yes, they added a point guard. That's great. They got a good backcourt. What about their front guys? Or what about their bench? They lost some bench players this offseason. I can't sit here and think that Atlanta's that much better either. The Heat, they're not going to be much better because they're going to lose Tyler Hero no matter what. They're trying to move him to try to get something for him, but they're going to lose him. So they're not much better. They're going to lose their 6 man because he wants to start. So Milwaukee, yeah, but they're getting old. Chris Middleton's getting old. He can't stay healthy. I mean, the Greek Freak is still young and still good, but are you going to depend on some of the players that they have over there to really produce in a 7 games? And everything with the NBA goes to, the regular season means nothing. It's all about the playoffs. And your seed.
It's all about the playoffs.
Yes.
Right.
So, I mean, sitting here, the Celtics, they got better with Brogdon. Brogdon hasn't played a 70, 80 game season since he's come into the league. So are they much better? And the answer is, I don't know. So, yeah, I think the Knicks are, if they get Donovan Mitchell and Brunson, they've been the biggest splash in the offseason in the Eastern Conference.
But yeah, I mean, the thing I'll just be interested in seeing is how that backcourt defends.
Yeah.
So they'll really need Mitchell Robinson and guys like that on the front court to really hold it down when it comes to that rim presence, that rim protection. But that'll be the interesting thing. If those two can defend, because we know they're going to get buckets. We know what Brunson can do. We know what Mitchell can do. But if they can be just average, league average on defense, that'll be the thing that can really let us know if the Knicks will be for real. And can Tibbs not wear down the guys? You know how it is with Tibbs. The first year he's with the team.
Yep.
The team plays well. The season you just mentioned, as things progress and continue, that could be something that might be interesting. And maybe the guys, we'll see if they really warm up to Tibbs and if everything works out, because that's just kind of been the history with him. That first year, the team's great. Then as it continues, teams kind of
remember this name, Kenny Atkinson. There was a reason why he didn't take the Charlotte Hornets job. I believe that. I've said that before. I wasn't surprised. I told that to Speedy over here. I said, there's a reason why Kenny Atkinson didn't take that job. And I really believe that if Tom Thibodeau this year does not really produce where they expect him to be, he's going to be gone. And they're going to bring Kenny in. It makes a lot of sense.
That'd be a great hire.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
So
Kenny's legit. He got a raw deal over in Brooklyn when everything played out. But with what he had and to build it up, and the season they had with D'Lo and those guys with that young team, that series they had with the Sixers, he really did some good things. So he's definitely one of the better assistants. I'm glad he's still with the Dubs for now, but we'll see how things work out.
Golden State Warriors fan.
I told you he was a better sports fan.
Look, I'm a real Warriors fan though. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a little story. I'm from Mississippi.
How are you a Met fan? How are you a Met fan?
In Mississippi.
Oh, exactly. Okay, so in Mississippi we don't have pro teams, so I have free reign to kick back.
And
watch TV,
why would you pick the Mets of all teams?
I blame David Wright.
Okay.
Jose Reyes, Carlos Delgado, those guys. So I'm still sick about Beltran striking out looking, but that's a story for another day. But anyways, so Monte Ellis is from Jackson, Mississippi, about an hour from my hometown. So he got drafted to the Warriors, and ever since then, been rocking with the Dubs. So I went through the We Believe years, saw us, draft Steph, keep Klay Thompson instead of trading him for Kevin Love, and everything worked out. And it was a good investment. I got the stock at its lowest.
Well, I'm not going to argue anything with Steph Curry with you because you probably completely disagree with me. So we'll get off that subject.
So
Okay.
I wanted to ask about the Jalen Brunson, both the contract and the fit with the Knicks. What did you think about both those scenarios for them? And what do you think could be his full potential as now, I guess, the biggest role he's going to have?
I think his full potential could be a guy who maybe every now and then might make an all-star team. He has the skill, the savvy. You see him on the court. You know, he gets to his spots, can get buckets. So I feel like with the role that he'll have with the Knicks, it's possible too that, you know, because we don't know if this Mitchell trade is going to happen. So it's on him to really kind of make it happen at that guard spot. So he could be a guy who maybe makes an all-star team. He'll definitely be like a 20-point per game scorer, around maybe 20, 22 points, someone like that. And I think it's a solid fit. You kind of taking a chance with the smaller guards. I'm not a big fan of having the smaller guards, but, you know, with what the wings you have with RJ, you have Robinson on the inside. So there's pieces around him that can make up for his deficiencies. So I think it's a good fit.